All right, welcome back to Let's Talk Gratitude. My name is Christian, and this is the Let's Talk Wrestling portion of Let's Talk Gratitude, where I review on Mondays Friday Night Smackdown and on Tuesdays Monday Night Raw. How's your guys' weekend been? It's beginning of NFL playoffs. If you guys have been watching, how are your teams doing? As a Chiefs fan, I've had a really good weekend so far. And it's been doubly good for me because my brother's a big Dallas Cowboys fan, and they got beat up by the Packers this weekend. So another disappointing Dallas Cowboys season means good for me. How have your teams been doing though? Let me know down in the comments. Make sure I'll tell you right now. Let you know. Make sure to like, subscribe, help this channel grow. All right. With that all said, let's get into the SmackDown review. Fun show we had on Friday. Began with a recap of the number one contenders triple threat match that happened last week with LA Knight, AJ Styles, and Randy Orton, which then led into the first segment of the show and looked like we were going to get a match at first. It was going to be Grayson Waller and Cameron Grimes that got set up last week. Unfortunately, got interrupted because the Bloodline, Solo, Jimmy Uso, and Paul Heyman came down, attacked Cameron Grimes, beat him up. He was not able to compete, ran off Austin Theory and Grayson Waller that were in the ring, and hijacked the show from that point. This brought out Nick Aldis. But before Nick Aldis got to speak, Paul Heyman got on the mic. He said to the crowd that, look, don't boo us, right? Turn all your jeers to the real bad guy. And he calls Nick Aldis that villainous James Bond wannabe. Clever line. He complains about the Fatal 4-Way that got set up by Nick Aldis last week. Complains about it. Says it's unfair. That Nick Aldis is a bad guy. And then Nick Aldis snatches the mic right out of Paul Heyman's hands. And this brings Solo to kind of step to Nick Aldis. And Nick Aldis has so much of pro wrestling is all the little things that happen. And Nick Aldis has two really good little things moments. First one being with this Solo interaction. Nick Aldis has just a really good "don't mess with me" face that he just gives right at Solo. So Nick Aldis gets on the mic, pulls rank on Paul Heyman, says, "Don't assume that this is a conversation between two equals." And I really love this style of GMing from Nick Aldis. The "I'm in charge and you're not" attitude from Nick has been really good to watch. Nick Aldis says that he's tired of the Bloodline interfering with matches, that they've now interfered in 2 matches in as many weeks, and that they're not going to be able to interfere or mess up tonight's main event because the Bloodline is in the main event. So he makes a match, a 6-man tag match between the Bloodline, Roman Reigns, Jimmy Uso, and Solo Sikoa versus the Contenders that are going to be in the Fatal 4-Way, AJ Styles, LA Knight, and Randy Orton. Of course, this brings Paul Heyman to try and take back the mic, and this is the second little things moment that Nick Aldis does that's really, really good. So Paul Heyman goes to try and snatch the mic out of Nick Aldis' hands, and Nick Aldis, because he's much bigger, much stronger than Paul Heyman, just hangs on the mic and does not let Paul Heyman take it and forces Paul Heyman to speak into the mic while Nick Aldis is hold it. I love that power move. Again, so much of pro wrestling is the little things, and those little things for Nick Aldis just in my eyes, raise him up just another half step. So Paul Heyman complains and says, Roman's not here tonight. He only works every other week. And Nick says, oh no, he goes, oh no, of course Roman's not here. He starts another thing that he can't finish. And he tells Paul that the Bloodline have by the end of the night to find a partner to team with them. or it'll be a 3-on-2 handicap match. And yeah, so that's the setup for the main event. Which leads us into the first match of the night, a tag match between the returning to the main roster Angel and Humberto versus the LWO, Joaquin Wilde and Cruz del Toro. We first, before everybody comes out, get a very nice video package to reintroduce Angel and Humberto to the main roster audience. Then the match starts. Cruz and Angel start the match. Cruz gets the upper hand and sends Angel and Humberto out to the floor for a double dive with Joaquin Wilde. Real hot start to the match. The LWO, Cruz and Wilde, are this really exciting tag team that I think is a nice switch up in flavor from kind of the traditional tag teams that we get. And I think especially Joaquin Wilde in this team. I think tonight or Friday, that match really was a standout moment for Joaquin Wilde since he's been on the main roster. I really liked everything he did tonight. I think he really stood out. He was probably the biggest standout of the four guys in the ring tonight. Angel takes back the advantage with this really awesome looking running knee. So Humberto set Cruz del Toro up on the apron, sitting up, and Angel just full sprint with all the force in the world hit Cruz with the running knee. Looked devastating. Angel and Humberto, I think of all the tag teams on SmackDown, are probably the two that I want to succeed the most. There's something about their charisma and their hard work that they've put into since they've come up on the main. They've been on the main roster for a long time, and then went back down to NXT for a while. But I've loved the work that these guys have put into it. Angel Garza is charismatic beyond belief. I remember his match when he first arrived in NXT against, I think it was Lio Rush, for the Cruiserweight title. It was a really, really good match, and really impressed with Angel way back when, and still impressed with Angel. Love his work and want nothing but the best for these guys. So the finish of the match came when Cruz del Toro took out Humberto with this really nice looking corkscrew plancha. Santos Escobar was on commentary, and Carlito came out of the crowd behind him and attacked Santos. Those two fought off into the crowd. Joaquin Wilde went for kind of this wheelbarrow move on Angel in the corner, and Angel reversed it into a roll-up, held the ropes for the dirty 1, 2, 3. That was the finish of the match. Really good opening match. Kind of an abrupt finish, but I think it was good. I think the biggest takeaway that I got from this is actually something that is an opportunity I think they have in the future, probably at WrestleMania. We look at the LWO, who it consists of: Carlito, Cruz del Toro, Joaquin Wilde, and then of course let's not forget Rey Mysterio, who's currently out with injury. But we look at this new faction with Santos, who I don't think has a name yet. Santos Escobar, Humberto Carrillo, and Angel Garza, and they need a fourth member, right? It's a really good opportunity for a 4-on-4, but hard to do it when one side only has 3. Of course, if you pay attention to sort of the outside of the ring stuff, there is a very interesting free agent that has a history with some of the guys in Santos Escobar's group, Andrade Almas, who used to be part of WWE. I think it would be a really good opportunity if we can get Andrade's return back into this story, teaming up with Santos and Humberto and Garza, because I don't think we ever got really that got any time with Andrade, Humberto, and Garza, who I think had Carrillo and Andrade certainly had really good chemistry when they were together way back when. So, opportunity that I'm looking forward to, potentially. Bit of a fantasy book, but I hope it happens. I would love that. Next, that brings us to another bloodline segment and backstage. So it starts with Jimmy Uso being very concerned that nobody's going to want to work with the bloodline in the main event tonight. Paul Heyman tries to reassure Jimmy, saying that there's a whole locker room full of people who have been kissing Paul Heyman's tuchus for years, trying to get into the bloodline. So it'll be no problem finding a partner for them. And that sets up sort of the theme for the bloodline this entire night. It's a recurring thing that happens. Jimmy, after hearing that, still says, "Oh, gee, I'm worried," and then asks Solo if he's worried, and Solo says that he's never worried. That brings us to Carmelo Hayes and Nick Aldis segment. Carmelo Hayes is meeting with Nick Aldis in Nick Aldis' office. Nick Aldis tells Carmelo Hayes that he was very impressed with his debut on SmackDown. Carmelo Hayes says that that Carmelo looks very good in blue. So hopefully a tease that he stays on SmackDown, because I like him on SmackDown. For some reason, he just feels like a SmackDown guy, even though that whole like SmackDown / Raw guy isn't really a thing, except for certain guys. Hayes then teases entering the Royal Rumble. And as they're talking about the Royal Rumble, they get interrupted by Grayson Waller and Austin Theory. Grayson Waller comes in gloating about his forfeit victory in the opening segment against Cameron Grimes. Hayes and Waller jaw back and forth. Hayes mocking Grayson Waller that he's beaten him multiple times and saying that they could run it back. Waller cowardly backs out of it, but offers up Austin Theory as an alternative opponent to Austin Theory's surprise. Which then Nick Aldis sets up that match for later in the night. This then brings us to another Bloodline segment. Paul Heyman trying to recruit Carlito to join the Bloodline in the main event. And these segments where he's trying to recruit people are really funny, for very specifically because Paul Heyman's recruitment pitches were so god-awful. With Carlito, he attempts to make it. So Paul Heyman walks in with an apple, says Carlito, talks to Carlito, greets him, and Paul says to Carlito, I don't want this to look like Eve tempting Adam with the apple in the garden, but in the Garden of Sin, wouldn't Carlito with the bloodline just be cool? Terrible pitch, okay? Using the analogy of the Garden of Eden to try and say, hey, you should join us in this fight. Not the greatest idea if you know your Genesis theology and what happens after all that. But it was funny, nonetheless. Carlito says that the only person that he's interested in fighting is Santos Escobar. And then he walks away, comes back for the apple, and then walks away again. Really good segment, funny. Next, we had Logan Paul. We got a short recap of the United States number one contenders tournament last week. And then Logan Paul had a promo following that recap. Logan Paul showed up with still having a shiner on his face from getting punched in the face by Kevin Owens. Logan then threatens to sue Kevin Owens for having a cast, or threatening to sue Kevin if he brings the cast to Royal Rumble. I believe was the reason why he'd sue him. So he had a really good line though in this promo. Logan says, "I won't just beat you in the ring, but in the court of law. I will run your pockets so deep, you'll forget you're wearing pants." Delivers it really well, better than I will. But it was a good line. What not so much a good line though is something that I don't think grown men who are trying to act tough and trying to act like champions should ever say to each other. Logan Paul oddly calls Kevin Owens a cheater, pumpkin eater, which, thinking about it now, might make him more unlikable, which is the point. So maybe good work on Logan Paul. Still, I'm not sure grown men should be saying that to each other. But good segment nonetheless. Good promo. Logan Paul's always a good promo. Next, we had another segment. This is a segment heavy show. I do like one show design choice that they're making where they set up for a match with someone's entrance starting and then jump to a backstage segment and then coming back to the match after the segment's over. I think I like that show design trick better than match, then segment, then match. So it's at least interesting and different, so I like it. But the segment we got was Tyler Bate and Butch meeting at a coffee shop. Bate thanks Butch for the call last week to join in a tag team match against Pretty Deadly. Tyler Bate says that they had fun just like the old times with the he's teasing obviously the British Strong Style days, NXT UK days. Bate says to Butch that he's lost his way and he needs to find himself again. Butch, and this I think is like the first time Butch gets any like real promo time since he's been on the main roster. So I like this direction that we're having Butch actually say something. Butch says that it was fun beating up Pretty Deadly last week, but that's in the past. And interesting, and probably one of the most interesting parts of this, he says that match is in the past, and so are the Brawling Brutes are in the past. So I'm sure they're in the past for now until Sheamus comes back and might take umbrage with old Butch for that. Tyler Bate reminisces back to when Triple H told Butch, who was going by a different name, way back in the NXT UK tournament days, to go make a name for yourself, kid. Bate says that Butch needs to ask himself who that guy was way back when and what that guy's name is going to be today. And of course, this is teasing potentially the return of a name for Butch. Obviously, he went under Pete Dunne before joining the Brawling Brutes. I think this tease is interesting for quite a few reasons because WWE is in the business of telling really good stories now, so I have to imagine that the payoff to this tease isn't just the return of a name, right? Because Pete Dunne was at his most interesting and compelling and at his peak when he was the mean, bad British guy that would punch you in the face, break your fingers, pin you 1, 2, 3, and win championships. That was his most compelling. That was his peak, right? So my assumption is if we're bringing back Pete Dunne, that means eventually we're coming back to that ultimate form of Pete Dunne, which means that we might get a return to an old rivalry similar to what WWE did with Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, where we get another match between Tyler Bate and Pete Dunne, which I am all for. I hope that happens. So very interesting stuff coming out of this segment. Looking forward to all the possibilities in the future for Tyler Bate and Butch/Pete Dunne. Next, that brings us to Bianca Belair versus Bayley with Damage Control at ringside with Bayley. So I watched SmackDown twice. On the first watch, I thought that this match was a bit too long, kind of overstayed its welcome for me. On the second watch, didn't have that issue the second time. Felt much better than the first, and I'm not sure why that is, if that's just the watching it live versus being able to break it up. But that's how I felt. And I think I know the reason why I felt that way, potentially just for the match reason. The story of the match was Bayley trying multiple times to get Damage Control to interfere. Bayley would distract the ref, get Bianca in a vulnerable position, and like typical heel factions do, the outside guys would beat up or interfere on behalf of whoever's in the match. Except Damage Control, because they're a bunch of snakes, did not help Bayley at all. Bianca was in a vulnerable position. The ref was distracted, and Damage Control, Kairi Sane, Asuka, Io Sky, and that snake in the grass, Dakota Kai, all stood there doing nothing with their hands in their pockets, like, well, what am I supposed to do? This match, really good match, really good. These are just professional women doing their job. Bianca Belair in this match, really impressive, and not just in this match. She's really impressive in every match she does. But she has the same problem that Ricochet does, and it's not really a problem. It's probably the best problem to have, and it's making everything look way too easy. Right? Ricochet can do everything and make it look really easy. So can Bianca. Probably even more so than Ricochet, right? Because Bianca's just, in comparison to their divisions, Bianca's just the strongest. No pun intended entirely. Fun spot of the night. Bayley ties Bianca's hair to the bottom rope and starts doing running knees on Bianca while she's tied to the bottom rope and trying to get out. She goes for another running knee, and then Bianca then moves out of the way, uses her hair as like a trip line, tripping Bayley into the ropes and being able to get the advantage from there. It was a really creative spot. Finishing the match looked like Bayley launching Bianca to the outside, trying to get, again, Damage Control to interfere on the match. They refuse. Bayley goes back outside, gets Bianca inside the ring. Takes a little too long. Bianca gets a roll up for 2. Then hits Bayley with a spear. Then KOD for 3, and that's the match. Very good match. Again, first watch long for me, but second watch wasn't as bad. Big takeaway, obviously, don't pick friends like Kairi Sane, Asuka, Io Sky, and especially Dakota Kai. When Bayley lost, what was funny, when Bayley lost, the 4 of them gave the fakest, oh no, Bayley lost face ever. Just absolute snakes. Just disgusting behavior out of those 4 individuals. Next, we got Kevin Owens responding to Logan Paul. So Kevin implies that Logan's scared from getting that black eye last week. Kevin Owens suggests that he and Logan Paul talk it out before Logan sues him. Kevin Owens says that Logan Paul can have the, and I quote, biggest honor of his miserable career by being a guest on the Kevin Owens show next week. That's something to look forward to next week. Kev is such a just natural promo guy. He comes off so genuine in everything he does. And part of it, I wonder, maybe some of it's a little genuine. It comes from a real place. The best actors are often, acting out of some sort of real place. Kevin Owens does a great job in that. Next, we get Damage Control meeting in the back. Bayley coming up to them and asking, "Hey guys, what happened?" And then again, that daggum snake in the grass, Dakota Kai, pulls her aside and just is lying to her face. Right? Dakota claims that the ref was looking right at us. So what do you want us to do? Then she says that, well, we thought that you could handle Bianca on your own. Now putting the blame on Bayley, right? Saying, oh, well, this was your plan, right? Your plan was for you to win the Royal Rumble. You're gonna have to do that on your own. So now Bayley is all out on her own, just flat out being told, oh, well, we're not gonna help you anymore. So I wish so bad that Bayley would just say, well, when Dakota says, well, what'd you want from us? that Bayley would just say, well, that we run the same exact play that we've been running since day one, since you guys came back at SummerSlam. You know? That I wish Bayley would say, well, you do realize Io didn't win that title on her own. Why I gotta do everything on my own? There's 5 of us now. So, Bayley, I wish would just, all of us who are watching can see what's happening, obviously. Bayley seems to be the only one that's not in the know, which is the saddest part of all this story. But if these 4 aren't good friends, we do know one person who's a really good friend that might potentially come back. So yeah, looking forward to what else this story has. Hopefully Bayley gets rid of these snakes. All right, and that leads us next to Bobby Lashley and the Street Profits coming out for a promo. They come down, shirts unbuttoned, no pomp and circumstance. This is all just business at this point. They come looking for a fight with Karrion Kross and the Authors of Pain. So that's what Bobby says when they get in the ring. Paul Ellering comes out onto the ramp, points at the Titantron, introducing a video package of Karrion Kross and Scarlett, explaining that they have for the last while been breaking people and deconstructing their opponents on the inside, but now they're going to break people and deconstruct them on the outside. Karrion hypes up the Authors of Pain. I think this video package did more to make the Authors of Pain look devastatingly dangerous than their attack on the Street Profits last week. It was a really good video package and really well done. I think it did wonders for the Authors of Pain. Paul Ellering, I'm excited to see how he manages all 3 of these guys, Karrion and the Authors of Pain. Looking forward to that. We end the segment with getting the name of this faction, this new faction. They are called the Final Testament. Karrion Kross says, "We are the Final Testament." I like the name. Intimidating name. Ominous and all that. So, good promo. Good video package and all that. Next, we get another Paul Heyman recruitment segment. Pretty Deadly come up and offer their services to Paul Heyman. And this is what I mean by Paul Heyman just being terrible at recruiting, which is odd for a guy whose 3 biggest clients are Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, and CM Punk. And somehow fumbles the bag when 2 guys are offering for free their services. Paul Heyman says, you guys do realize that it's only one of you, and you're going up against Randy Orton, AJ Styles, and LA Knight, and this scares off Pretty Deadly. Offering their services for free, and you sell the game for free. Good job. Good job, Paul. This then brings us to a video package for Carmelo Hayes. Really good video package, hyping up the match between him and Austin Theory, which is what we get next. That match, which unfortunately was cut short due to injury. It seemed like to both guys, Austin Theory went for this very unique sunset flip off the top rope, and both of them just landed really awkwardly. Carmelo Hayes looked like he got folded up like an accordion, and then Austin Theory looked like he almost devastatingly landed on his head. Thankfully, it looks like they're both okay. I know Hayes posted something that he was doing good, so it looks like these guys are good, which is always the best news. After this, we got a short segment between Bobby Lashley and Paul Heyman, which was really cool. Just the sort of ECW connection, even though Bobby wasn't part of the original ECW, he was part of that new WWE ECW. Still, it's an interesting connection that I like. Heyman tries to recruit Bobby. Did a better job of recruiting him this time. He tried to use the friendship part of of their relationship to try and recruit him, which is smart. Still didn't really sell it because you got to know your audience. Bobby says the only time he wants to be in the same ring as the Bloodline is when he's across the ring from Roman Reigns. Again, know your audience. Of course, Bobby Lashley's not going to team with the Bloodline. He wants to beat the Bloodline. This then brings us to the final Bloodline segment of the night. Paul Heyman spins the bad news to his boys that, nobody wants to team with them. He spins it as saying, well, I interviewed everybody and no one was worthy of teaming with the Bloodline. He says that the auditions are over and it's you two. It's just Solo and Jey Uso. And he says this incredible line. Jimmy Uso, I think I said Jay. Jimmy Uso sells all this incredibly. I love Jimmy's selling of Paul Heyman's work. But Paul says, I have full faith in my Juso and in Solo. So now we're just calling Jimmy Uso Juso, which I'm all for. Jimmy says to Paul Heyman, oh, gee, I'm worried. Solo says he's not worried, and immediately Jimmy's demeanor entirely changes. Jimmy is now no longer worried and is ready for a handicap match against the three contenders, which is what is up next. Our main event for the night, Randy Orton, LA Knight, and my favorite wrestler, AJ Styles, versus Solo Sikoa and Jimmy Juso. So this entire thing starts with Randy Orton coming out for the entrance first. Solo Sikoa and Jimmy and Juso attack Randy from behind. Super kick, Samoan spike, and he is no longer able to compete. Walks to the back, which means this is turning into just a straight up tag match between four individuals, 2-on-2. LA Knight, and my favorite wrestler, AJ Styles, come out. And the story of the match is, of course, can AJ Styles and LA Knight coexist together? Remember, AJ Styles, on his return, clothesline the crap out of LA Knight, and so they don't like each other. So that's the story of the night. Can these two guys coexist long enough to get the win against the Bloodline? Jimmy gets the early advantage because they were arguing. LA Knight and AJ Styles were arguing with each other. Jimmy takes the advantage, attacks LA Knight, gets the short advantage. AJ Styles gets tagged in, gets the advantage back. I'm loving AJ's new work with this very in shape body now. It just gives him an extra just pop. He comes off those ropes like a cannonball. There was a spot where he does the running forearm with their opponent laying on the floor, and he just shoots out like a lightning bolt off those ropes, and it just looks more devastating. Everything he does just looks so much more crisp, so much more intense. I love it. I love this new AJ Styles. AJ, though, loses the advantage, starts getting beat up, goes to LA Knight for the hot tag. Solo comes around the corner. LA Knight forgoes the hot tag to attack Solo Sikoa, which leaves AJ in the ring with Jimmy. AJ gets mad after LA Knight comes back for the hot tag. AJ has an opportunity to tag him, but refuses to because he thinks LA Knight's trying to screw him. Jimmy goes for a super kick on AJ. AJ ducks out of the way, which leads to LA Knight eating that super kick instead. Takes out LA Knight for a little bit. Then AJ Styles and Jimmy Uso take each other out with dueling cross bodies. And with everybody laid out, we have a quick moment for Randy Orton to come back triumphantly and get the hot tag, do all the Randy stuff. the clotheslines, power slam, spike DDT, RKO, off of Jimmy Uso super kick for 1, 2, 3. We get Randy Orton winning the match for the boys. Solo then attacks Randy Orton post match, but gets hit with a phenomenal forearm. Then blunt force trauma, and then an RKO to send Solo outside. The boys then go outside and attack Jimmy Uso, hit him with the steel steps, throw him into the timekeeper's area, come back for Solo, clear the announce table, and then hit him with a throwback to Roman Reigns and the Shield with a triple powerbomb. Solo goes right through the announce table to end the night for him. Man, good show. I'm excited for this Fatal 4-Way. I'm excited for these three guys getting an opportunity at the Royal Rumble. I'm excited to see what that match is going to look like. Who you got in that match? All right, you got Randy, you got Roman, you got LA Knight, and you got AJ Styles. Seems like a fait accompli for Roman Reigns to get that victory and then go up against The Rock or Cody at some point down the line. But hey, more surprising things have happened in pro wrestling before. So who is your, if Roman were to lose that match, who would you pick to take it off of him of the three that are facing him? Let me know in the comments. If you've stuck around up to now, man, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Very appreciative for every view that I get. Do me a favor though, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Help this channel grow if you support what I'm doing here. Later this week on Friday will be a Cyberpunk 2077 review. Finished the game last week and had the weekend to think about it, and I'm very excited for the opportunity to talk about it because, man, it was a really good game, very thoughtful game, and yeah, I'm very excited. Thank you guys for sticking around up to now, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, y'all.